A Fox Business alert, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates stepping down.
And another stock closing in the red is Microsoft after announcing word of its plans to lay off more than 9,000 employees came today. This comes after 6,000 people were let go back in May. Largest number of layoffs in technologies.
You want to know why Bill Gates is suddenly facing backlash? Because Microsoft basically walked out on stage and told the world that white-collar jobs could be gone within 18 months, and then followed that up with tens of thousands of layoffs. Nothing calms people down like telling them they might not have a job next year while you are cutting 11,000 this month.
And if you rewind a little bit more, Microsoft let go of 10,000 employees in 2023 and nearly 18,000 back in 2014, which was their biggest layoff ever.
Let's start with that 18-month prediction. A top Microsoft AI executive went out and said most white-collar tasks could be automated within 12 to 18 months. Think about that for a second. Lawyers, accountants, project managers, marketing teams, just gone. And Microsoft sells software to those exact people. Microsoft 365 subscriptions, enterprise licenses, cloud contracts. So I have to ask, who exactly is going to buy your products if you automate your entire customer base?
Some breaking news for you right now. Microsoft is laying off hundreds more local employees starting on May 5th. 689 jobs will be cut in Redmond, Bellevue, and Issaquah. This according to numbers sent to the State Employment Security Department today. That is on top of the 617 local job cuts announced last month that will begin in April.
At the same time, Satya Nadella has been telling investors that AI adoption needs to accelerate so Microsoft can justify its massive spending. They need businesses to embrace AI tools. They need corporations to lean in. And then someone from inside the company goes out and says, by the way, you are all replaceable. Does that sound like a smart marketing strategy to you?
So I think these layoffs from Microsoft are a retooling, cutting in areas that it felt needed to be trimmed down a little bit, maybe saving some money because it is going to be spending $80 billion on CapEx this year.
It created panic. Employees inside Microsoft started wondering if they were next. Enterprise clients started asking questions. Social media lit up. And instead of calming things down, Microsoft doubled down with layoffs. March 2025, Microsoft announces 11,000 layoffs. The corporate language said, organizational restructuring to align with strategic priorities. That sounds clean and polished. Then the breakdown leaked. 6,400 of those 11,000 cuts came from the Windows division. That is 58% of the total layoffs hitting the team, responsible for the very product that built Microsoft. Then May rolls around. Another 6,000 workers cut company-wide. Not long after that, a second wave hits. 9,000 more jobs eliminated. In Washington state alone, 689 local employees cut in one round, 617 in another, and nearly 2,300 local workers affected across separate waves. These are not small adjustments. This is a chainsaw.
We got some breaking news just before you stepped onto set. This coming from Microsoft that basically they're going to cut 9,000 workers in a second wave of major layoffs. It seems like Microsoft is really looking to reduce headcount here.
So let me ask the obvious question. Microsoft stock is up 150% over the last 5 years. It is up 16% year to date. The company beats profit estimates, and yet it is cutting tens of thousands of jobs. If everything is so strong, why does it look like a fire sale inside the building? Now let's talk about Windows, because this is where the real story sits. Windows licensing revenue dropped 22% year over year. Later reports showed a 26% decline. That is not a rounding error. That is roughly $4.8 billion in lost annual revenue. Enterprises are sticking with Windows 10. Some are paying for extended support. Others are moving to Mac or Linux. Consumers are not rushing to buy new PCs because Windows 11 has hardware requirements that force people to spend $1,000 on machines that replace computers that still work. So what does Microsoft do in the middle of a platform crisis? It cuts the teams responsible for quality.
It affects the whole process.
When we asked for a company statement, we received this. We continue to implement organizational changes necessary to best position the company for success in a dynamic marketplace. Duckworth tells me the layoffs will not just affect their customers, but some of their employees who also have connections with Microsoft.
A 47-person Windows quality assurance team was eliminated. Their job was to test updates before they shipped, to catch bugs, to prevent disasters. Gone. Customer support was slashed by 40% from 1,800 support engineers down to 1,080. Average support wait times jumped from 35 minutes to 78 minutes. That is over an hour waiting for help while your system crashes. And Windows 11 adoption just hit a 3-year low. That is happening at the same time Microsoft cuts the people who test updates and the people who answer the phones. How does that make sense? When revenue drops 22% and user trust drops with it, do you really think firing QA engineers fixes that?
Will Microsoft have another round of layoffs this month? Well, guys, I checked the Magic 8 Ball and all signs point to yes. The rumor has it that we can expect up to 11,000 to 22,000 roles eliminated this January.
This is where the financial logic comes in. Windows revenue drops 26%, so management cuts costs to protect margins. And yes, they managed to hold around a 19.8% operating margin in that division. On paper, that looks disciplined. In reality, it looks like squeezing the last dollars out of a struggling product. Because when you cut quality assurance, updates break more often. When you cut user research, you stop understanding what customers actually want. When you cut support, frustrated users leave faster. That creates a cycle. Revenue falls, cuts increase, product quality drops, more users leave.
And if we assume that these employees are making around $200,000 annually between salary and benefits, this move could save Microsoft up to $2 billion to $5 billion annually. But get this, while employees are getting axed, there is no sign of Microsoft slowing down on AI innovation.
Inside the company, morale has cratered. Reports showed that 62% of Windows Division employees were actively job searching. That is not routine turnover. That is people trying to escape before the next email hits their inbox. Senior engineers have resigned, publicly saying management prioritizes telemetry and engagement metrics over performance and user experience. Bill Gates built Windows into the dominant operating system on the planet. He spent decades pushing engineering excellence, and now sources say he is frustrated, watching Windows treated like a cash cow. He is no longer CEO. He does not control daily strategy. He can raise concerns, but he cannot snap his fingers and reverse direction. So here we are. Microsoft tells the world white-collar jobs might disappear in 18 months. Then it cuts 11,000 jobs, then 6,000 more, then 9,000 more. Windows revenue drops 22%, then 26%. Support teams shrink by 40%. QA teams vanish, wait times double. Employees are job hunting at 62%. And they expect people to trust the roadmap.
This new round of layoffs, the company said, cuts across all regions and all positions, though the focus is at the managerial level. During this last earnings call in April, Microsoft's chief financial officer said their headcount was 2% higher than a year earlier.
This is not a minor restructuring. This is a company trying to protect margins while its flagship product struggles. It looks like management betting that cost-cutting and AI headlines will distract from a platform losing steam. You cannot tell your workforce they are replaceable. You cannot tell customers you are automating their jobs. You cannot cut the teams that keep your product stable, and then act surprised when backlash explodes. That is why Bill Gates is under fire. That is why Microsoft is drowning in its own decisions. And this is only the first half of the story.
Microsoft has just confirmed it's laying off more than 9,000 employees. That is 4% of its global workforce. And yes, this is the company's largest round of layoffs since 2023.
So now we get to the part nobody at Microsoft wants to talk about in public. The AI spending frenzy. The $80 billion gamble. Because while they are cutting 11,000 jobs, then 6,000 more, then another 9,000, they are also planning to spend $80 billion in capital expenditures this year. That is not pocket change. That is a full-scale bet on data centers, chips, and AI infrastructure. And I have to ask, if AI is so ready to replace everyone in 12 to 18 months, why does it need $80 billion more poured into it? Microsoft executives keep calling coding assistants the fastest growing software category. They say workflows are changing internally. Engineers are using AI tools to write more code. That sounds efficient, that sounds futuristic. But then you hear about experiments like the one where AI could not even manage a vending machine correctly. It struggled to stock items. It made basic operational mistakes. So we are supposed to believe this same technology is about to replace lawyers and accountants, but it cannot keep a fridge organized?
Let's break it down. Microsoft hasn't said it directly, but it's clear that the company is going all in on artificial intelligence, and that is shifting how it works internally. Reports suggest that the rapid growth of AI tools like coding assistants could be reshaping team structures. Earlier this year, CEO Satya Nadella said AI now writes 20 to 30% of all code at Microsoft.
The truth is more complicated. AI can boost productivity. It can help engineers move faster. It can summarize documents. It can generate drafts. That is useful. But replacing entire workforces is a different conversation. Even big tech founder Alex Kantrowitz said these layoffs are not AI replacing jobs. He called it retooling. He said AI is not good enough to take over most jobs today. He pointed out Microsoft is profitable and beat expectations. So if it is not AI taking jobs, then what is happening? Money is being diverted. Divisions that are not labeled AI are being trimmed. The CapEx budget needs to be justified. Investors love hearing that AI will cut costs and boost margins. The market rewards companies that talk aggressively about AI. Microsoft stock has climbed 150% over 5 years. It is up 16% this year. That momentum gives management cover to make big shifts.
We are seeing so much money from the big tech companies, Microsoft, obviously Meta, with the whole talent war situation heating up and how much, they're paying some of these folks that they're bringing in from OpenAI and other places. We are seeing more and more money go towards developing these AI capabilities much more aggressively.
But those shifts come at a cost. While Microsoft is trimming Windows and cutting legacy teams, competitors are moving in the opposite direction. Apple expanded its Mac engineering teams by 40% in 2024. Many of those hires came straight from Microsoft. Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu Linux, hired 180 engineers, including former Microsoft staff, to build tools that make it easier for businesses to migrate away from Windows. Think about that for a second. Microsoft lays off engineers who understand Windows deeply. Those engineers join competitors, and those competitors build better alternatives using insider knowledge.
So whether it is the layoffs at Microsoft or whether it is some of the retooling we perhaps may be starting to see publicly or not so publicly at the other companies, though, does it represent a diversion of cash away from more traditional tech businesses to AI?
I think there definitely can be a shift. The money's going to have to come from somewhere, especially if you're doling out contracts like Meta is. I don't think any company.
At the same time, Meta is aggressively hiring elite AI researchers. Reports say some contracts are worth tens of millions, in some cases, even up to $100 million. That is not small-scale recruiting. That is a talent war. Microsoft is cutting headcount broadly, while others are selectively paying massive sums to secure top AI minds. So which strategy wins long-term? Mass cuts to protect margins, or concentrated investment in top-tier talent? Inside Microsoft, morale is collapsing. Employees saw 6,400 colleagues in Windows cut, then thousands more company-wide. Internal surveys reportedly showed 62% of Windows employees actively looking for other jobs. That kind of number signals organizational instability. When people are updating resumes instead of building products, performance suffers.
So whether it is the layoffs at Microsoft or whether it is some of the retooling we perhaps may be starting to see publicly or not so publicly at the other companies, though, does it represent a diversion of cash away from more traditional tech businesses to AI?
I think there definitely can be a shift. I mean, the money's going to have to come from somewhere, especially if you're doling out contracts like Meta is. I mean, I don't think any company outside of Meta is giving these multi-million dollars, some might say up to $100 million, up into, according to some reports, contracts for AI researchers to come over. But AI talent costs a lot of money. And so if you do want to play there, you might have to divert from other divisions to your AI research divisions. You're certainly not going to be cutting investment there. But I should also note that Microsoft in particular is a company.
And what does management say? Strategic alignment, resource allocation, corporate language that avoids saying the obvious. The obvious is that Windows revenue dropped 22%, then 26%. The obvious is that cutting QA and support during a product crisis accelerates user frustration. The obvious is that when updates break machines and wait times stretch to 78 minutes, customers notice. Meanwhile, Bill Gates is reportedly watching this unfold with frustration. He built Microsoft around engineering strength. Windows was infrastructure. It was not just a revenue line. It was the foundation of the ecosystem. Now insiders describe tension. Gates allegedly believes you cannot maintain product quality while firing QA engineers. You cannot maintain trust while cutting support teams.
Microsoft says this round of streamlining will minimize redundancy and improve efficiency. While this move may help the company's bottom line, it's likely to hurt local businesses.
A lot of our business does generate from Microsoft.
But he is not running daily operations. He sits on the board. He can advise. He can express concern. He cannot unilaterally reverse strategy. That leaves him in a strange position, the face of Windows watching Windows shrink. Now let's talk about the broader economic logic. If white-collar jobs really vanish in 18 months, who becomes the buyer? If companies replace entry-level staff with AI and reduce hiring pipelines, what happens to the next generation of professionals? AI may increase productivity per employee, but it does not create consumer demand on its own. Microsoft depends on enterprise contracts. Those enterprises depend on skilled workers generating value. If automation becomes widespread without economic expansion, spending tightens. Software budgets shrink. That hurts Microsoft's core business.
And if you think that's just optional, think again. A leaked internal memo shows that in some departments, AI usage is now mandatory and it's even tied to employee performance reviews. Microsoft says that this is all about empowering employees to focus on more meaningful work. But for many, the message is loud and clear. Adapt to AI or risk being replaced by it.
And then there is the contradiction. On earnings calls, analysts are asking how far Windows revenue can fall before strategy changes. 30%? 40%? The CFO gives careful answers about evaluating resource allocation. Translation sounds like keep cutting until the numbers force a shift. Holding a 19.8% operating margin while revenue drops 26% looks disciplined in a spreadsheet. But markets eventually price long-term decline. Investors cheer AI announcements today. They also punish structural decay when it becomes undeniable. So here we are. Microsoft is spending $80 billion on AI infrastructure. It is cutting tens of thousands of workers. It is trimming Windows during a revenue slide. It is watching competitors hire its former engineers. It is pushing coding assistants internally while insisting layoffs are not about AI replacing jobs. Does that look like a company in full control of its direction? Or does it look like a company trying to pivot aggressively while stabilizing margins, hoping the AI narrative outruns the Windows decline?
A new report has also indicated that due to the recent layoffs, at least 3 popular Xbox games now stand cancelled. By the way, this isn't the first wave of layoffs at Microsoft this year. In May, 6,000 jobs were cut, another 300 in June, and even before that, a 1% staff cut happened in January based on performance.
Bill Gates faces backlash because his name is still attached to this empire. When Microsoft stumbles, people look at him. They remember the era when Windows updates felt stable, when product focus seemed clear. Now they see headlines about layoffs, AI automation predictions, and shrinking Windows revenue. This is not a simple story about technology replacing humans. It is a story about strategic bets, about capital shifting, about protecting margins while gambling on a new frontier. It is about a platform under pressure and leadership, trying to reposition the entire company before the numbers get worse. Microsoft is not collapsing overnight. It is not going bankrupt tomorrow. But it is navigating a risky transition. And when you combine $80 billion in spending, 20,000 plus layoffs across waves, 26% revenue declines, and internal morale issues, you get turbulence. The backlash is not random outrage. It is a reaction to mixed signals. Replace jobs, retool workforce, cut costs, spend billions, protect margins, promise AI dominance, ship buggy updates, lay off testers. People see that pattern. And they are asking whether Microsoft is reinventing itself or dismantling its own foundation.